Yo, Shortbox Nation, this is Badr, and I'm here to tell you right now that con season starts early this year with the return of Northeast Florida's premier anime, comic book, and sci-fi event, Collective Con. That's right, Northeast Florida's largest pop culture convention returns for its 10th year on March 8th through the 10th at the Prime Osborne Center in Jacksonville, Florida. 10 years of Collective Con, they're pulling all the stops out to make sure this is a can't-miss event. And the guest list they got going, don't even get me started on the guest list. I mean, they've got A-list celebrity guests and voice actors from some of your favorite movies, anime, and video games like Elijah Wood and Sean Ashton, Ray Park, Trisha Helfer, Ross Marquand, Max Middleman, and Bo-Katan herself will be there, Katie Sackhoff. Tell me what other convention is giving you the opportunity to meet Frodo and Sam from Lord of the Rings, Darth Maul, and One Punch Man all under the same roof. Only at Collective Con. And if you're looking to get some of your favorite comics signed, or if you want to get an original sketch from some of the best comic artists in the world, well, you're in luck, because there'll be plenty of comic and creator guests there, like DC comic artist extraordinaire Clay Mann, Harvey Award-nominated illustrator John Taylor Christopher, Marvel and DC cover artist Chris Stevens, and acclaimed Star Wars author Timothy Zahn. They'll all be at Collective Con this year. And if you're looking to bring the family, or if you want to make a weekend out of it, you're in luck, because there'll be so much going on at Collective Con that weekend in the form of vendors, fan panels, video game tournaments, cosplay contests, after parties, and a bunch of fan events. You can purchase single and 3-day weekend passes now using the link in this episode's show notes, or by going to collectivecon.com to book your tickets and hotel. Buy your tickets now, and I'll see you at Collective Con, March 8th through the 10th. Now let's start the show.
It was more like I Love Lucy with a little bit of Donna Reed in it. It just jumps right into like she's a housewife.
Yeah, like a slice of life,
slice of life housewife. And it comes at you quick. It comes at you quick.
Very quick.
Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Shortbox Podcast, Season 7.
The Shortbox Podcast was recorded before a live internet audience.
Y'all ready to go to queue up episode 1 of 2-1?
What is it? Really?
Episode 1 of 2-1?
That's good.
Episode 1 or 2-1.
Episode 1 of 2-1. Come on, Drew.
Bags and boards.
Gentlemen, how about a fresh water cheers?
Water's cheers.
Yeah, a nice little water cheers.
Refreshing.
That's how we bring in 2021.
There we go.
Hydrated.
Responsible.
We're responsible until we're done with this, and I'm going to pour my first drink, so yeah.
Don't ruin the behind-the-scenes magic. You know what? I think we're ready to go, man.
Are the levels good? Am I talking at a good level?
You're
Or do you need me to?
No,
Okay,
you're
cool,
talking at a
cool.
great level.
I don't have the headphones, so I don't know.
This dude there's only one headphone port. There's only one headphone port.
That's cool.
And the portable,
he can hear it and it sounds good.
Yeah, as long as
I'm just saying they
can-
make little jack splitters, and then you can put a tube. But that's all.
Nah,
that's
you're
all.
right. You're right. Noted for next year.
Yeah,
I got it
I got
noted
it.
for next
I
year.
got
All
it.
right. Yo, Shortbox Nation and returning listeners, as well as new listeners and new friends joining us for the first time. Welcome to the Shortbox Podcast. I hope the new year has treated all of you well. Welcome to episode 309, first episode of the 2-1. We'll be analyzing and recapping the new WandaVision show on Disney Plus and discussing our most anticipated comic titles due out this year. Joining me today is a special trio of co-hosts today. For all of you longtime listeners, you guys know in January we have this long-standing tradition of myself and Andrew Torres, who's on the mic with me.
Hello, how's it going?
We have this annual tradition, right, Drew? Every January.
The year doesn't start.
There you go.
For either of us. People are like, Happy New Year. I'm like, don't talk about nothing about Happy New Year. I got to make my retreat. That's like, everybody talks about how they go out into like in the Himalayan mountains or whatever. Like, me and Badr, this to me is like the creator's retreat.
It's like we get two New Year's. We have the regular New Year's, that happens on December 31st, January
it's okay.
1.
I mean, everybody's happy,
and then we have the Shortbox New Year, and that's when we make our Mecca down to Orlando to go visit our favorite big homie, one of the co-founders of this show.
Hell yeah,
none other than Walter Gant, ladies and gents.
Good morning, everyone.
Yo,
how's everyone doing?
We have got this is my squad today, man. So I'm in a great mood, especially with it being the first episode of the new year from the Shortbox. I had to knock the rust off So bear with me, man. It's already been a pretty.
It's the longest January.
Yeah. I mean, everyone that's listening has been alive to see that this has been the longest January we've had.
We are wilding right now.
Absolutely. So I hope I hope for all of you Shortbox Nation members and like I said, new friends joining us. Hopefully the new year has been well to you. Hopefully you guys have started watching a WandaVision. Because if not, then you might want to go ahead and skip a good portion of this show. Take a look at those timestamps in the episode description to see the next segment. But going forward, we're just going to be discussing, like I said, WandaVision. And then we'll get to the comic book talk, man, because that's what I think this squad does really well is comic book talk.
It's the only reason why I'm here.
In the sense of, I think all of us do a really good job of keeping up with, like, current titles.
At least, the main stuff that we like,
Or Badr at least does a good job of keeping us informed, and whether or not that we answer his emails is another story.
Yeah.
But,
But look, before we get into the main event, there is a handful of people who play a major role in helping us maintain and grow this podcast. And I'd like to shout them out before we really get started and going. Starting for our main sponsor, the comic shop, Gotham City Limit. Gotham City Limit is Jacksonville's premier place for comics, toys, collectibles, and more. If you live in Jax or if you ever find yourself passing through, stop by the shop on Southside Boulevard and tell them the Short Box sent you. Lastly, this show is made possible in part by donations from our Patreon subscribers. Their contributions help us continue improving the show by helping us pay for equipment, podcast bills, road trips like this one, and other necessary
I said that your money's going into that way.
Thanks to them, we're able to grow the show and continue the production of episodes like the one you're enjoying now. So if you're interested in supporting the show and earning our eternal gratitude and some awesome rewards in exchange, visit patreon.com/theshortbox to become a Patreon subscriber, or click the link in this episode's description. Speaking of patrons, we've got a new patron joining us. So gents, prepare this a nice round of applause. I want to give a standalone shout out to Brandon Bevel. He's our newest Patreon subscriber. Not only is he our newest, like I said, Patreon subscriber, but he's also the first patron joining the Shortbox Elite, as Drew has dubbed our Patreon subscribers. He's the first one joining this year, so a round of applause for Brandon. Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the club, my friend.
All right, let's get it one more time for our sponsor and patrons and get started on the first half of this week's show, our WandaVision episode 1 through 2 recap and review. And like I said in the beginning, from here on out, it's going to be spoiler warning. All right, consider this your spoiler warning. From here on out, we'll be discussing important plot points and other, Easter eggs and things that'll probably ruin the stuff for you. So, consider this your spoiler warning. Let's set the stage for our listeners and give some credits where it's due. Just a quick kind of recap of the series and some important information that, might be good to know. WandaVision is a new miniseries created by Jack Schaefer, who also holds writing credits for the upcoming Black Widow movie. My understanding is that she worked pretty closely with the director for Spider-Man Homecoming, so that way Black Widow would stay in continuity, and then she got picked up for Vision around that time. So, so Jack Schaefer not only wrote the first episode of WandaVision, but she's also got writing credits on that upcoming Black Widow movie. The series is based on the Marvel Comics characters, of course, Wanda, Maximoff, Scarlet Witch, and the Vision. It's set in the MCU. It shares continuity with the films of the franchise and takes place after the events of Avengers Endgame. Gents, did you guys know it's been like, I think when I tallied it up, it's been 563 days since we had like the last MCU anything.
It doesn't feel that way, but
it does to me only because we were in that ramp up for Black Widow, and then the whole country shut down, like the world shut down. Like Black Widow is about to be out in a week or two. And then it was just like, y'all can't go outside no more.
Disney's like, we can't, they're like, it was like, do you guys remember the Black Widow event? What happened? Look,
I was under the impression, I'm not going to lie, I really thought they was going to end up putting that on Disney Plus.
The last thing
it didn't happen is still crazy.
The last thing we got was Spider-Man Far From Home, and that was July or June 2019.
Yeah, that was July.
But I mean, who's counting, right? Who's counting?
That would have been July 2019. Yeah.
So it's been. So I mean, WandaVision is the first thing that fans get out the gate, and I feel like it's safe to say it's not what everyone was expecting.
It's kind of exactly what I was expecting. I'm not gonna lie. On that end, it was what I was, because the commercials tell you what it is.
Yeah, but I'm telling you right now, the fact this show looks so damn good that you're like, this is a movie.
Yeah. Well, that was something that they said with Disney Plus. everything, nothing's gonna be looking cheap on there.
Yeah.
Like
I hope
none
I'll
of that
ever
stuff.
hate-
It's all gonna look like the movies.
So this miniseries blends the style of like classic sitcoms along with the MCU, and we find that Wanda and Vision, two superpowered beings, are living their ideal suburban lives, and everyone's starting to suspect that it's not, as it seems. Episode 1 and 2 are both directed by Matt Shackman, who also holds directorial credits for shows like Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Game of Thrones, as well as Fargo. In addition to Jack Schaefer writing for episode 1, episode 2 was written by Gretchen Enders. So you got Jack Schaefer on episode 1, Gretchen Enders on episode 2. In addition to Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany. How do you always say
Paul Bettany.
Bettany, thank you so much. Reprising the roles as Wanda and Vision. There's a pretty good roster of supporting cast and cameos in these first 2 episodes.
Who else is in this cast? Because the one woman is Kathryn Hahn, is always in everything.
But she's amazing, though.
She's a main character in there, and so is the mom from 70s Show.
Oh, my God.
So she pops up. I can't think of her name other than mom from 70s Show.
Yeah.
And then
I can just hear, you can hear the laugh.
Yeah.
And then like that black woman was Don Draper's secretary in Mad Men.
Really?
Yeah, I hadn't seen her. I hadn't really seen her in anything since.
Yeah, Teyonah Parris.
Yeah.
Things
So
like
she is. That's Tiana Paris. Man.
that. Tiana, sorry. Yeah. Well, spelling still isn't my strong suit in 2021. So.
Well, look.
Oh, and it's Deborah Jo Rupp
Yep.
that plays quote unquote 70s mom.
She is. I mean, look. Anytime you see her, anything, it's her.
It's the mom.
Actually, when she showed up, those are my exact words. Oh, yo, it's the mom from the 70s show. Yeah, so
Yeah,
you're right on point. You're on point.
That puts your guard down a little bit. You're like, oh, okay, hi.
So
what's
what
up?
is? And then Kathryn Hahn been in there just with all them like ridiculous like 1950s one-liners.
Yeah,
it was
for sure.
just real good.
she's
And
killing
that's
it.
one of those. At least on the way the first 2 episodes went, and from what it looks like, okay, so it went from black and white to at the very end it went color, and that was kind of like how sitcoms and stuff went in like in the late 50s,
Pleasantville.
late 50s, early 60s. It was a Pleasantville vibe to that portion of it. I expected at least they were going to stick in that realm for a little bit until the color came around in like the 60s and the 70s with just a rapid type of change in American culture as well as American sitcom culture. So I would assume like at some point they won't be like Archie Bunkerish, but I would assume like the episodes be more like Brady Bunches with like a lot of weirdness tied into how the show's been going so much. Because what they're
and
doing,
that's how they introduce the kids with the Brady Bunch.
when the kids
theme
come
song.
in, there will be something to that extent,
Oh,
and that'll be.
damn.
That's what I'm thinking.
That'd be cool.
If they're going to keep with the motif of like we're going to be ripping off classic sitcoms.
Can we call Las Vegas right now and put in a $5 bet? Like, this is
And
what I think.
I
is gonna
think
happen.
that'll be something to that extent. So that's what I noticed.
Well, help us out here. What are some of those classic sitcoms that they kind of or paid homage to in these
I
first
mean,
2 episodes?
obviously, you're going to just any person who's my age will just remember. Exactly. So I'm getting there. So before, in a long time, in a far, far away, in the long ago, we only had, I don't know, about 15 channels, 10 channels, and you had all those classic sitcoms. So like people my age and a little bit older than me just remember. That's why we all have such a nostalgic point for like Leave It to Beaver and or I think it was My Three Sons. It was My Three Sons was another one. The Donna Reed show. That's kind of what this is like a little bit. Wanda's kind of like Donna Reed.
I've seen other comparisons to like Bewitched, Dick Van Dyke Show.
Well, it's definitely going to be Bewitched.
Okay.
But Bewitched is only, and you know what? Maybe that last episode, this may just be Bewitched, now that you said that, because Bewitched had kids.
Well, I like the part that you said about the Brady Bunch. Like, I was like, ooh, if that's what they're going with, like how they progress the show with all these episodes, and that's what they're going for, I would totally want to see a Brady Bunch.
If Agatha Harkness pop up in here, then it's definitely Bewitched. That's probably Kathryn Hahn.
She's credited as Agnes, which I feel like.
Then that's who that is. Then yeah,
I think so.
that is a really good catch.
Oh, I mean, IMDb is my best friend. So.
Okay.
So, from my understanding, as far as like continuity wise, this takes place right after Endgame. So Vision is dead. They already had the funeral for everyone that they lost. So and this show is supposed to springboard into essentially this is kind of like the springboard into the rest of the what is it, Phase 4 MCU?
Yeah.
Because this leads right into Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, and that leads into I think after Doctor Strange.
Well, Doctor Strange is toward the tail end of this, though. Because
well, I'm thinking just continuity wise,
yeah.
it leads into it.
When this ends, Falcon like immediately starts.
It's only like I think 2 weeks.
Yeah,
like a 2 week little hiatus.
Good. I cannot wait for that.
So all right, Falcon, Winter Soldier, and then it's supposed to be Black Widow the movie if it doesn't get delayed. Followed by they're saying Loki should come out sometime after that, and then we should be ready for like Shang-Chi. Yo, this is Badr. Sorry for interrupting this episode, but I'll keep it brief. I wanted to let you know about a massive sale we have going on over at the Shortbox store on all of our merchandise and apparel. That's theshortboxstore.bigcartel.com. You can now save 20% off your entire order using the discount code YOO, Y-O-O. So if you've been waiting for the right time to finally buy that gauntlet snapback, or if you ever wanted to buy any of the shirts you see me wear on the podcast, well, now's your chance to get them for a steal. We still have a few sizes left of everything, but they won't last long, and once they're gone, they are gone. And then I mentioned that all of our apparel is screen printed on high quality material. None of that heat transfer or direct to garment stuff. Our shirts are some of the most comfortable ones you'll ever wear, and the hats look even better in person. So wear your support for the Shortbox Nation proudly, knowing that you're going to look damn good doing it. Get to theshortboxstore.bigcartel.com as soon as you can, and don't forget to use that discount code YOO, Y-O-O, to save 20% off your entire order. All of this information can be found in this episode's show notes if you want to get there faster. Thanks for not pressing fast forward. Now back to the show.
Yeah,
I thought Eternals was coming out before Change. Or did they move Eternals to 22 now?
I think they moved Eternals. Yeah, they moved Eternals.
Okay.
Yeah, keeping up just with like their schedule is like almost like its own like full time
we had
thing.
the schedule on point, and then again, we had that panty. That panty just got us like at the crib. So
yeah. So I mean, Drew, did it live up to it?
Dude, it blew my mind and expectations. I went in here just basically thinking I was like going to enjoy this, but then watching it the first time, I was like, "This is really good." And then we rewatched it a second time, and I was like, "Man, this is definitely like a Marvel magic movie."
I should have rewatched it the second time, which I was like, you know what? I'm tapping out. I'm going to watch Eddie Murphy Raw. I'm going to sleep.
I don't know if this show has rewatchability just yet, because I almost feel like you need to get through the whole season first to understand like where it goes, and then rewatch it to catch like the like the small messaging that leads up to it. Because rewatching it, it's like because it throws you in so cold, you know, this show throws you in so cold, and to think about like regular casual fans that don't really know about the source material, or are just joining the MCU for the first time with this show, which would be fucking crazy. But there are people like that. Right? Like this show off the rip, it's like Marvel was like, I don't care that you guys waited, a year and some change. Like we are getting right into it. There was like no backstory. There was no like recap of what happened. It was like either you knew what happened or you didn't. And I think for a lot of casual fans, at least like the attitude I've been seeing online is like, well, damn, like what the hell is going on? For comic heads like us, for me at least, I was like, oh, they're pulling from this story. That was a good little shout out to this.
That first episode was more like an episode of I Love Lucy.
For sure.
That's what it was. Yeah. I'm just like, okay, I'm going on. Like, it was more like I Love Lucy with a little bit of Donna Reed in it, because it just jumps right into like she's a housewife.
Yeah, like a slice of life,
slice of life housewife. And it comes at you quick. It comes at you quick.
Very quick. And either you're following along and catching the small stuff, or you're not, or you're just missing it. And it's just like, why are they doing a black and white?
And see, I woke up early and watched it. Like I woke up and like I had a fresh, clean, non-tainted mind when I was watching it. Like, okay, word. So I'm just sitting here.
It didn't get to me yet.
No, man. I turned on. I was like, oh, it's on. Let me not look at no spoilers. And then looking at that, what the hell are you going to spoil?
Nothing.
Like, there's nothing.
Big time.
That show is spoiler proof in and of itself. Like,
you didn't really get much.
I don't know what to tell you about what the hell was going on.
Well, I'll be honest for you. I think that I didn't get caught off guard as much in this show, because I did a little bit of research, because I had to admit, like,
a little research. That's a little.
I did a lot.
10 pages, my friend.
I kind of had to be reminded of like what Wanda and Vision had gone through in the comic books.
I knew enough, but I didn't know a lot.
Well, I mean,
these two are the Romeo and Juliet of the time. No.
Well, once you like start looking into like their major story arcs, like such as like Avengers Disassembled and Scarlet Witch, essentially having that initial breakdown there, and then finding out about like that old 80s series with Wanda and Scarlet Witch and her like creating her children, and they happen to have like fragments of Mephisto's soul, and then like House of M. Like you start realizing Wanda and Vision's story, at least especially Wanda's story in the comic books, has served as like an integral piece of a lot of the bigger story arcs that we got in the late 2000s, like that early Brian Michael Bendis days and that gauntlet of writers. Like Wanda, they kind of like used Wanda's tragic ass story as like the catalyst for a lot of those early big crossover events.
And it's still the reverbs
Yes,
of her
exactly,
are still being felt like right now.
So like having that context again, like refreshened and kind of like some of the pieces put together a little better for me, like it makes sense why they would give WandaVision a story, because there's so much like lore to work with, and as tragic as that story arc, like their whole like relationship and Wanda's children, like that whole story is crazy. I recommend anyone that hasn't read it. Like there's a good a few articles like on mapping it all out, but it gives me confidence that if they can tell Wanda and Vision's comic book story, it opens the door for a lot of like Marvel stories. So let's go back to the show real quick. Did you guys spot any interesting like trivia or comic book related Easter eggs? Did anything stand out for you guys?
I didn't notice the sword thing. I didn't notice that at first, but that has been brought to like my attention because of like Reddit.
Yeah.
The things I obviously know is the same as everybody else is like the two commercials. But those were like so blatant that if you weren't paying attention, I don't know how you didn't notice it.
And what were the commercials?
The first one is the Stark commercial. Mm-hmm. The second one is the Strucker commercial. So that's the Hydra commercial. When you look at the watch, it's a Hydra thing on the thing. But those were the two obvious Easter eggs.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sure there's a bunch of other stuff that's happening in there that doesn't make any sense. Like, obviously, the guy who turns around, who the hell is that guy that came out of the sewer?
So my theory on that one is here's my theory about the whole show, period, based on like things I've read and then that original trailer we got. Because that original trailer, there's some like quick ass scenes where it's like helicopters and like it looks like military shit trying to enter like this energy dome. So it makes me think that Wanda has, after the events of Endgame, she probably found like some neighborhood or cul-de-sac.
So small
to,
rustic
yeah,
city.
exactly. To like settle down and try to like, build a life again. But in combination of her powers and probably dealing with like depression, grief. Exactly. Like dealing with all these things, finally kind of settling in, her powers kind of start manifesting on their own and go wild. And they've transformed, I think, like this little suburban town or city, or really town, into like this ideal landscape for her. And through her power, she's brought back Vision. Because that's why Vision can't remember shit. Like they keep playing around with like, their memory being like, no one knows what's going on. Vision don't know what his job does. They can't answer how long they've been married, if they've been married. So I think that's a result of Scarlet Witch's power. She's brought back the Vision. She's created, I think, these kids and all of this. And every single time that Sword has found out about this little pocket universe, and they're trying to break through. And that's why she's getting, messages on the radio. I think that B-Dude that shows up, I think that was a soldier or someone that managed to infiltrate that reality, and that's just the form he takes.
Yeah.
Because the thing that backs it up is in episode 2, when they hear all that banging on the window, they think it's a tree. But when Wanda goes down the next morning, she finds that toy helicopter,
that's red,
and it's got all that sword branding on it. So I think that's the form.
I didn't catch that.
Yeah. This show, I'm trying to pay super close attention to all the small shit, because I feel like this show, I think why it's a little offsetting for some people at first is that it feels so much different than all the other MCU stuff. Yeah. Like they went more like psychological kind of thriller so far in this, alongside like some really like blatant kind of tongue-in-cheek comedy. I think
that has always been successful for any TV show now.
But imagine like MCU giving that a shot.
That's what I'm saying.
Cool.
There's definitely it would work because it plays into that whole American Horror Story type of vibe.
What did y'all guys think about like their the release format? Because I thought they were going to go the route of like Mandalorian, where it's like one episode every week.
Well, remember when Mando started, it was 2 episodes that first week. Like not for this year, but for the first when they first came on.
Yeah, they dropped 2 at once. But I mean, it went back to being weekly.
This is going to be weekly.
Well, they're coming out. Well, here's the difference with this release is they're doing 2 episodes every week.
You lying?
I kid you not.
That's what's up, baby.
So it's a 9 episode series. So if you do the math,
so much be an hour then.
Exactly. I think that last week,
Which a lot of these do feel like it. The one thing I wanted to suggest was that both this episode felt like it was just one long movie.
That makes, you know what? Now I'm sitting there thinking if that's going to be the motif they're going to do. So let's say we got 4. So they'll give us 4 weeks of this.
Yeah, 4 weeks.
So if they're going to be going through sitcom history, 50s, 60s, 70s, and then maybe the 80s and 90s blend, and then the last episode is like the 2000s of sitcoms, 2010s. Because sitcoms have been about the same for the last 20-something years.
I hope we get like a Family Matters reference.
I think for sure. Because
TGIF.
Yeah, man.
This show should end like mid-February, and then, like I said, there's a 2-week gap before Falcon and Winter Soldier come out. Before we go any further, let's pause right here. Let's go on a quick commercial break, and let's hear what our sponsor has to share. Hey, Shortbox Nation. Sorry for the interruption, but we want to talk about one of our favorite comic shops that happens to be a proud sponsor of this here podcast.
You're talking about Gotham City Limits.
Whoa, Batman, what are you doing here?
It's just me, Badr at sea. I've got laryngitis. But you know what doesn't have laryngitis? Jacksonville's premier location for comic books, collectibles, toys, and more.
Oh, and don't forget, pool customers get 10% off their comics.
Shut up, I'm talking now, punk. Gotham City Limits offers free bags and boards.
And 20% off trades and hardcovers.
I don't need a Robin for this ad spot.
But Batman, you're forgetting about the most important part about Gotham City Limit. It's a comic shop welcome to everyone, for the diehard collectors and the new fans.
I told you I'm not Batman, but have Alfred get the car ready. I'm rich, so it's on me. We're going to Gotham City Limits to spend some money on comics.
So, Drew, as someone that's been actively rewatching the Avengers and the MCU movies, what do you think about Elizabeth Olsen and
Paul Bettany?
And Paul Bettany, thank you. Well, how do you feel about their like growth throughout the movies, like to land here?
Oh, where they got right now?
Yeah.
Man, I'm telling you now, I believe that they are more in a relationship in this show. Like, they just feel like they're like wondrously like in love, and they have really good chemistry in this movie. As when I just saw Age of Ultron right now, they're like, I mean, they definitely laid the foundation there about like, okay, these two are basically very closer than what you think. Mm-hmm. And she's read into his mind, and she knows that he's like of good like quality. Mm-hmm. He's raised the hammer, like. But as far as like growth and stuff, I like when you remember when Vision was taken from him, and then like Thanos like reverse time, ripped this dude's fucking skull. Ripped his, crushed his skull and took this, and just, all the effort was for nothing. And, he kept asking her, you need to kill me. Yo, you were heartbroken for this girl. And now you're watching this, and you're kind of happy for these two. I'm telling you right now, I'm happy that, she's, they look cute together. They're in love. You believe it. And now that I'm talking about it, I'm like, fuck, they're going to take it away from me now. Damn.
Oh, man.
Well, maybe not. If her powers have gotten this ill, maybe she's constructed him back. We don't know.
Yeah, we definitely don't know.
Yeah.
I will say, that's funny you mentioned that. I ended up catching the ending of Infinity War one day. I was like, oh, this is about to end, right now. And I was like, oh, man, I forgot this part. Yeah, I know he's about to grab her by that skull and pull that thing out, but I forgot about the part where they had reversed the time.
I was like, damn, that has to this sucks because you got to do it twice.
Yeah.
You bringing up that moment in Endgame, yeah, I think the further back you start tracing because they both made their debut in Age of Ultron.
And he picked up the hammer. The first thing he did was he had this really dope monologue. He's talking about hey, man, you know why you're here? He's like, yeah, I have to kill Ultron. He's like, I choose life over everything, but Ultron's not going to stop.
Vision, when he debuted in Age of Ultron, I liked him a lot. I think MCU has done him, wonders and justice. I remember not liking so much, Scarlet Witch when she debuted, because I felt like they were just trying to shoehorn in some X-Men in a very cheap way.
Yeah.
And I remember her acting to me has gotten so much. She is
killing it.
Well, now, because she's just gotten used to playing a superhero. She wasn't... I don't think everyone takes to water as well as others in one of these superhero movies.
And I've also noticed she's kind of ditched the that very kind of corny accent that she had in Age of Ultron. Because I definitely forgot that she is a native of
Sokovia.
You know, and yeah. I don't know why the fuck I brought that.
No,
So that means they was giving her like a wild Eastern European accent.
Very bad like Eastern European accent. But I've noticed that it's not so prevalent now.
Well, it's not going to be so prevalent in this show because these shows are all based on
American sitcoms.
American sitcoms.
Well, Drew also had a good point. That
it shows up in Endgame for sure.
Yes. Yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Good point.
When she's in Endgame fighting Thanos, when she's get mad at Thanos for killing Vision, and she's giving him the business.
She's fucking.
Yeah, she let it be known. Yeah.
She's like bringing those things down.
Yeah.
Like, sure will.
I think as impressive as a show of power was in that, this is almost just as impressive, but in a different way, like almost kind of scary way that she got the ability.
If what we think is the hypothesis of the show is correct, then it's definitely more scary.
Because some of my favorite parts of these two episodes is any time that they start questioning like the reality of things. Like in episode 1, that dinner scene with them and their boss and their wife. That was intense as hell. Like when he starts choking and then
you talk shit about my wife's food and expect me to save you.
Yeah. Like, because that was the first instance in that episode that you realize, oh, something is not what it should be.
Because she keeps laughing and keeps saying, "Save him, save him, save him."
Or no, she says, "Stop it, stop it, stop it, stop it," or something like that.
I thought okay.
Because and then Wanda says, "Viz, help him out."
And he's like,
you know. Yeah, exactly. Like, my bad. This series also, to Drew's point, like, I do feel the chemistry between like Elizabeth Olsen and Paul a lot. Like, I feel like because they're not having to do like formal kind of grandiose like superhero acting, they have a better range. Like this is like a different. They're kind of able to flex their acting chops a little more, especially like Paul. I feel like that magician a bit where he's like being like the drunk magician. Wanda has to like kind of think quick on her feet. That was executed well, man. At the end of the day, say what you will about these superhero films, these actors know how to act.
Well, that's because the one thing they've done is make sure we have A-list actors doing these movies.
True, man. Let's take the appreciative of how lucky that we got Paul as the voice of Jarvis, which later they take Jarvis in Age of Ultron.
That's streamlined. I love that.
Like we'll put the Soul Gem. Boom. Now you have Vision, and this guy looks like fucking Vision. So they knocked it out of the park.
I think it just more so speaks to like the planning, like the very like nuanced and detailed planning that. Whether you want to give it to Feige or like his team, really probably just a larger body of team.
But it's Feige who's out here making sure that look, the stuff got to run the way it runs.
Because it just makes sense.
The NFL's going to hire Feige to basically, hey, can you do what you did?
He can't. You know why? Because Roger Goodell is a meat shield for a reason. No, Kevin Feige is not about to be out here dealing with. Keep that Marvel job, homie.
I'm just saying it makes sense how we would land here because you could look back at all those MCU films and like Drew said, like you can find like just moments between them two and then like just like different events that happen to each one of them that would lead you here. And it just makes like it's kind of like a smooth like sense. It's like, I can go back to every single movie and see like what happened between them, why we would land here. And I think it'll probably be the same way with Falcon and Winter Soldier. Ooh. Whatever they're dealing with was probably already set up in these previous movies. Like whether it was like off screen or just like small interactions that we didn't pay too much attention to.
It wouldn't shock me if Grim Reaper shows up in their thing.
And you know what? Speaking of which, that actually takes me to my next question. Knowing that this series signals the start of like the phase 4 of the MCU, and that it'll directly lead into the Doctor Strange sequel, what are you hoping this series introduces or sets up for the rest of phase 4? Like, are there any characters that you want show up or plot points introduced?
Actually, I would like to see Wonder Man.
I knew you was going to say Wonder Man.
You know who else is supposed to show up in the series that we haven't even mentioned yet is Monica Rambeau.
I thought that was who was like when she was
in episode 2.
In episode 2, no. I thought I was like, is that supposed to be Monica Rambeau?
I didn't know Monica Rambeau was going to be in here.
I'm so excited.
I think yes. So in Captain Marvel, the little girl that helps her.
Yeah, that's the sword part. Then
yeah.
That's more the sword part.
Yeah. So we're supposed to, and I think even in the trailer, if you quickly like pause a scene or something, like you see her like
you see her as a little kid, or you see her as an adult version of Monica Rambeau.
She's supposed to be an adult in the series.
Okay,
because that would make sense timeline wise. Because Captain Marvel takes back so far, or takes place so far back.
Yeah, Captain Marvel happens in the 90s.
And we get Sword too, like the space version, the space cousin of Shield,
which is written by Josh Whedon. Josh Whedon created Sword.
In Astonishing X-Men, right?
Yeah.
in Astonishing X-Men. So the fact that like that's something that's introduced and the stuff that they deal with to me is already nice because we've already established that S.H.I.E.L.D. has fallen apart. So they had to make something new.
Shield doesn't really exist right now, does it?
Yeah, that's the thing. S.H.I.E.L.D. has fallen apart. So how this would make so much more sense that this new thing starts up that is Sword.
And they only deal with, like
Sword does with extraterrestrial stuff.
Yeah, extraterrestrial and like things that impact the Earth from like a larger grand scale. So if they're involved, that definitely says something about what Wanda is doing. Like I feel like whatever she's doing will have implications, like whether it be like she tore a hole in reality or she's screwing with, whatever magic holds like reality and time and whatnot together. Because Wanda's power, she's kind of got a little bit of
Her powers are insane.
Well, exactly, and that's just in the comics alone. But in the MCU, like she's got a little bit of power of each stone. Like she can fuck with time, reality, as well as like soul. Like in Age of Ultron, where she's like brainwashing or
No,
like
dude,
Captain
she
America,
has she's like omni powered. Like she's like definitely
Exactly.
the reality warping.
So she would be capable of being on their radar for whatever she's doing. She's on their radar, and it's probably because it endangers like the safety of like
humanity.
Exactly,
itself.
exactly,
Man,
exactly.
what if they send in Wolverine? Take care of it.
Wolverine's about that. He's about that action though.
Like, they're just like, hey man, listen, she doesn't know what she's doing. He's like, it don't affect me, and he just comes in and just fucking wrecks that, just rips down the whole set.
I don't know if there's really too much more to go into this
Not off
episode.
2
Like,
episodes, yeah.
We didn't really get like the most plot wise. There was a lot of like hints.
Are you here for this?
Absolutely.
Okay, what
Yeah,
about
me
you,
too.
Walt?
Yeah.
This thing is, we were talking about how we watched this and we said, okay, this is definitely inside Marvel baseball.
For sure.
Yeah.
Right
The only
now,
people
for
that can
sure, right
appreciate
now.
are the people that were like that ride or die. And like, I'm sorry if this is really like confusing you gotta work a little harder,
Gotta work. Look, yeah.
just a little bit, and then you can enjoy it.
And I don't think that you necessarily need to have read any of the comic stuff we mentioned.
It just helps.
Just understand
absolutely,
that all
absolutely.
they had was each other, and she had to kill the man she loved, and all she wants is some happiness. That's it.
That's well said, Drew. Well said.
Does she deserve happiness? She saved the world.
Yeah, I'm for. I'm here pro
Right.
WandaVision. Like you ain't gotta look
Can't
my
believe
way.
when it
Like
comes to it.
no, I'm
So
pro
we shall
WandaVision.
see, yeah. And like I said, I'm just excited. Look, man, Disney Plus so far. Look, when I use that service, I don't use it all the time, but
You know what? A small detail for WandaVision that like kind of like really got me like excited was that intro. Like I'm glad that they still kind of kept like that Marvel intro graphic that they normally do with like the flipping comics or whatnot. Instead, I think they used different clips or scenes from the movies to make the image. But when I saw that, I was like, damn, like I miss theater so much. This shit reminded me.
you know what I really miss from going to the movies outside of like going to actually see a movie?
What is it?
I legit miss popcorn. Like movie theater popcorn. Like the movie theater popcorn that you get from the grocery store is not the same. Like I almost would be willing to just go to AMC and just go buy.
Some to-go popcorn.
Let me just get like 2 things of to-go popcorn, man.
And I need to see y'all make it. No, don't give me. I'm not getting like the old stuff to go. All right, well, look, man. I think that is a good stopping point for our first 2 episode recap and review of WandaVision. If our listeners out there have any theories of their own or opinions that they want to share, or maybe things that we might have missed, man, feel free to chime in. Let us know your thoughts about these first 2 episodes of WandaVision. Shoot us a short email at theshortboxjacks@gmail.com or hit us up on our social media. But kicking off the first music break of 2021 is a track from the man most of you are familiar with by now. He's one half of the production team here on the Short Box. He goes by Mecca the Marvelous, and the song we're playing today is titled Marvel vs. Capcom. But it's the instrumental version of the song of the same name off his new EP, God is Marvelous, which dropped on Friday. The break won't be long. Stay tuned, and we'll be back for the second half of the show. Enjoy. That track, once again, was provided by Mecca the Marvelous. It's the instrumental version of a song called Marvel vs. Capcom, and that's available on his new project, God is Marvelous, which you can listen on Apple Music, Spotify, or just purchase from him on his Bandcamp. So check that out. We are going into the second half of our show, so we'll start off with one email. I'm going to read one email today. I had a few other emails, but those were addressed to the other co-hosts. We'll read those next week. I want to kick it off with an email from Joshua Pickett. All right, he writes, the email is titled The Best of 2020, and he writes, "What up, Shortbox? I love the end of the year episode and wanted to add my thoughts. Last year I read more indie books than I usually do and wanted to give a few champions. Something is Killing the Children is a great horror book with amazing art by Weather Del Adera. I'm not usually into horror books, but this one grabbed me from the first issue, and when it comes out, it goes right to the top of my stack. The other champion I'll promote is Sentient by Jeff Lemire and Gabriel Walter. And it's Gabriel Walter that did that Vision series.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Who's this?
Joshua Pickett.
Joshua, thank you so much.
The missing piece we need.
Thank you.
I said Alta. I was off on the
you
same
were
about
close, you were close.
yeah.
So where was I? Oh, The Other Champion I'll promote is Sentient by Jeff Lemire and Gabriel Walter. This book is good sci-fi with a touching family story at its heart. I would have heard about TKO without that episode you guys did a while back, and I appreciate the recommendation. Thanks for all the great content, and as always, make mine Shortbox.
Joshua, thank you so much, because I was teetering on purchasing this story, Sentient, but the fact that it's on the show now, I got to give it props. So
yeah, Sentient, I've had it in my like stack for a long time. It just never works its way to the top. So
I'm putting that.
I think it's overdue.
And then Something is Killing the Children. All of like the people that I talk to about comic books, that's the one thing that is like, you need to read that. I'm like, all right.
Have you heard anything about it, Walt?
Something Killing the Children?
Yeah.
I have, and I just haven't read it yet. What label is it on, or which? Because it was on a bunch of
Boom.
It's Boom.
Because it was on a lot of year-end best lists that I was seeing. Yeah, it was all over the place.
Yeah, it's on Boom.
I think Ashley was the one. I think it landed on her list when we did the episode. So that's what Joshua was speaking about. But Boom has done a great job. These last 3 years, they have put out some amazing content. Boom has become for me what mid 2010 images where I'm going to the comic shop to see what new number ones Boom is putting out, because I feel like a good bit of writers are starting to flock to Boom and your IDWs, in addition to Image, to get
because you probably got less of a waiting room at Boom.
That's quality. They look really good. They're really good to have in your hands, and it's nice.
Yeah. I mean, quality wise, yeah. Whatever paper they're printing it on, the presentation is good, and the stories, I mean, are obviously hold up as well. So thanks again for that email, Josh. Much appreciated. And like I said, I had some other emails come through, but since they're addressed to Cesar, Ashley, and Ed, I'll save that for next week when we get back to the studio.
Not mail fraud. What does it say? Just what's Ed say?
Nah, it's directed to them.
There. It says right there.
Nah, hey man,
one little.
Stop reading my. All right, and before we move on, I want to go ahead and say for those interested in helping us pick topics for future episodes, especially this year, I want to recommend checking out our Patreon. We've actually got a poll going on for our next artist spotlight. So for the first artist spotlight,
who are the choices?
we're doing a British takeover theme.
British takeover of artiste or
yeah.
artist?
So the candidates right now include Simon Beasley, Steve Dillon, Dave Gibbons, and Brian Boland. And at the moment, when I made these notes, Dillon and Gibbons were tied with 42% of the votes. So by the end of the month, we'll know which of those four artists is going to be the topic of our first artist spotlight of this year. But yeah, like I said, we allow our listeners to pick the topics they want to hear on the show. So if you're interested in that, join our Patreon subscription, patreon.com/theshortbox. And since we're skipping this week's No Comic Shop for Old Men segment, we're going to do a modified version of the last segment of our show, or maybe my favorite portion of the show, our champion season. And for those of you tuning in for the first time, Champion Season is the last segment of the show where we go around the table and highlight a few things within pop culture that has really resonated with us this week that we want to share with you guys. So it could be a comic book, a movie, a TV series, a video game.
Past, present, whatever.
Exactly, whatever.
You're
but
feeling.
The modified and the twist that we'll do this week is, in addition to your regular champion items you brought, give me one or two new comic book series coming out later this year that you guys are anticipating the most? I want to get some recommendations early from you guys so that way our listeners can start putting it on their poll and whatnot. Walt, since you are a guest of honor today, man, how about you go ahead and kick us off? What are you going to champion today?
Okay, I'm going to champion a bunch of stuff real quick, but I'll keep it fairly short on what I'm championing. So we'll go comic books first. So I'm going to champion Eternals, the Kieran Gillen, Esai Ribic reboot of Eternals. The first issue came out this week. I liked what I read so far, and I'll stick around, and depending on how long they stay on the book, depending on how long I'll read it.
What are they like doing vastly different with this relaunch? Anything different?
I have no idea because I've read all that old Eternal stuff that you can read, and it seems like what he's going to attempt to probably go a lot more into detail because Kieran Gillen he's good for that.
So you went back and read all the old ones. Are there infographics in the old ones, or like how are you absorbing the knowledge reading the first Eternals book?
Just absorbing it the normal way.
Yeah.
Through meiosis.
But in his defense, though, there's a lot in there.
Yeah, no.
So there's a lot. There's a lot in there, and what they only focus on 4 characters.
Yeah.
And I'll give a quick spoiler alert. One of if you follow Marvel books or whatever, you know that Thanos is technically an Eternal because his daddy was, and he's out here causing havoc because they got to go to Titan at the end of the book. So that is one. I mean,
I see this series being the Marvel's opportunity to. I mean, the timing is right? Like, if we don't get Eternals this year, we'll probably get it 2022. I feel like the series that we'll be getting from Marvel involving Eternals, either we'll continue seeing other spinoffs or we'll see them involved in some of the main titles. Because they're going to want to go ahead and, like, reestablish, like, all right, time
certain
to get
characters.
exactly.
Yeah,
Time
they
to
gotta get these characters.
Time to get people
loop.
refreshed with this property and the characters.
The same thing with like all these new Black Widow updates and stuff too. So
Yeah. I want to say two things. First off, like right off rip, how many Eternals do you think there are?
I couldn't even honestly list.
I'm the same way.
It's always been
But
a
as soon
property.
as
I'm
I
like, yeah.
opened up that book, I looked into it. I got a vibe of X-Men because like there's an infographic as soon as you look in.
100, yeah.
And it looks cool because you find out there's 100 Eternals.
That's cool.
And they break it down kind of like the X-Men, like those lithographs were. Like the way that Jonathan Hickman's been doing lithographs.
our Lord and Savior.
Our Lord and Savior
Jonathan
Hickman. Lord and Savior Hickman.
Praise be the X-Men. Praise be the X-Men.
And also with
We're
you.
getting there. We're getting there.
Hey, look,
Trust me.
if the rest of Marvel starts adopting those cool infographics to like
This one,
kind of
like, yo, open that up and check it out. And like right off rip, it shows you that there's 100 of them and they're in different parts. So then this morning I asked Walt, I was like, hey man, where do you put Eternals in? I was like, are they Inhumans? And he was like, nah.
I don't know. Yeah.
Like,
They're not Inhumans, but they're not gods.
Yeah.
They're somewhere in between. So
Yeah,
that's what I want to go through mine kind of
yeah.
quick.
Go
So-
through your champions. My bad.
So we got Eternals #1, and then Batman and Catwoman.
And you got the sweet Bruce Timm variant.
Yeah, that was just by luck.
I'm looking at it and just like, wow, that's sick.
So far the first issue I thought was pretty good, and I'm a sucker for Tom King at this point.
Have you been reading? Are you fully caught up to all of Tom King's Batman?
No, I'll probably sit back and finish it up.
Was this like a fresh start or an opportunity?
This ain't
to
a
jump
fresh
on?
start. I had read enough of it to where they was like, oh, they're gonna finish up. He's gonna finish up his thoughts on Batman with this book. So I said, you know what, I'll read it because I liked his Batman when I would read it. The next one that I would recommend that's out now is Reckless, and I'm sure it's already been championed before, but I'll go ahead and champion it again. And with Ed Brubaker, Sean Phillips, this will be part of a series of OGNs that they'll be coming out with throughout the year. So I'm excited for that. And it was a really good story.
Yeah.
And to be fair, like Reckless was good, and the other 3, I want to say there was 2 previous ones because Pope was good.
Pulp and
I can't think of
All My
the one
Heroes
with
Are
the
Junkies?
All My Heroes Are Junkies. That was the other one.
yeah. Anytime they do these like kind of one-off one-shots.
The presentation's amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
So-
it's beautiful.
And as far as upcoming comic books that I am looking forward to, I'm just really sucked into the X-Men lore right now on a insane tip. Like I was telling them, the only book from the X-Men right now that I'm not buying on a monthly basis is Wolverine.
Did you get to express your X of Swords like opinions?
Oh, it was super dope.
Okay.
It was like all these ancient black mutants. Yeah, sign me up.
In regards to like the forthcoming X titles, are there any new ones coming out this year?
Yes, there is. Way of X. Like Children of Atom, I'm interested in. We'll see if that sticks to landing for me. Way of X is the Nightcrawler book with Cy Spurrier is going to be writing it. And you had me right then. Cy Spurrier wrote like the maybe the definitive Legion thing, recently. He's wrote the best version of Legion.
Damn, and he also wrote Hellblazer, right? John Constantine.
I think so. So
that's a pretty good repertoire.
Yeah,
like,
it's going to be like a religion book. So we shall see how that goes.
With a demon, and
it's based around Nightcrawler.
It's based around Nightcrawler,
perfect.
so it'll be real interesting. So that's
cool.
on that end.
Sign me up.
So that one, and then movie wise, I'm like everybody else. You waiting? The movie theaters aren't going to work until Marvel comes in. So Marvel and maybe the James Bond movie because we don't even know when that's coming out. So, but as far as like watching stuff at the house, I watched this movie Sylvie's Love. I thought it was a really good movie. It's on Amazon Prime. Tessa Thompson and Nnamdi Asomugha are the stars. I thought it was a really good movie. And what I'm going to watch coming up, and I'll be one night in Miami, which is, it's about the night Muhammad Ali won his first world championship, or he won the first boxing heavyweight championship. But if you do the knowledge or whatever, that night, at that fight, he was hanging out with Jim Brown, Sam Cooke, and Malcolm X. Now, no one really knows what happened in this conversation or whatever, but at that time, those were like three of the most important black people on this planet. So that I'm going to watch that today, and Regina King directed it, and it's her director debut.
Interesting. I didn't know that part.
Yeah,
definitely
so
gonna put that up top.
That one is one, and so that's the movie I'm most looking forward to watching in the next 24 hours. And then we'll see whatever comes out this year. So that was music, movies, and television. I'm just kind of hit or miss. Like
you got the trifecta, Walt.
Yeah, if there's a good TV show and everybody's like talking about it, then I'll watch it. So
did you watch New Mutants at all?
Nah.
Oh, okay.
You're just not interested?
No, it's not on. I don't be going out my way to like,
Got it.
until I don't watch none of this stuff until it pops up on a streaming service.
Oh, when it shows
That's a
up
good
on the
point.
streaming service, like put it on the queue.
The only thing I watched recently that wasn't on a streaming service was Tenet, and I just paid for that.
Yeah.
I got to get around.
And Tenet was something. Now, I'm not going to say this movie is good or bad. I will say it was really interesting.
Definitely.
And that's all I got as far as champion.
Well said, Walt.
Dude.
Drew, we're going to go to you, man. What are you going to champion? What you looking forward to this year?
All right, so if I have to go comic books right now, championing it is like I'm right there with Walt right now. X-Men. Yo, I kind of just want to read all the X-Men books that are coming out, but I've only signed up for Marauders and then X-Men.
Yeah.
And then from there, I was like, I got Sword, so I'm doing Sword. Then I added Wolverine. But now from there, I'm like, all right, now what do I got to add? Because I want to do New Mutants. But, dude, after reading this X Factor, I don't know, man.
Read that new issue of New Mutants before you shake up out of here.
And then Hellions, too, man. Like, yo.
They're all good,
They
man.
are so good. They're all good. So if I had a champion, it's just that entire X-Men storyline that's coming up.
I'm going to co-sign something real quick on this X-Men thing. So Gary Dugan was on the AIPT
Podcast?
not the podcast. They're that X-Men Monday I was telling you about. They do every Monday.
Mm-hmm.
So he was on there last Monday. He said there's going to be 4 red issue X-Men books that come out this summer.
Wow.
And those are always something big happening because this is the Storm's year. Because you can already tell if you read Marauders last week.
No, I haven't read that. I have to pick up. I have to pick up that and
You know what? I'm done talking. Let's finish telling the rest of your thing.
Damn. All right. So, yeah, anyway. So, I'm just hyped on that. The Wolverine stuff that they're doing right now, I'm all for that. I just, like, my mind is blown. So, if I had to champion that would be that. The new stuff that's coming out, pulled up on my phone, is honestly that Daniel Warren Johnson, Beta Ray Bill. We already know how Daniel Warren Johnson works. Like, this guy does whatever he does, it's amazing. Yeah. And you're giving him a god story of Beta Ray Bill, who to me is just definitely one of the most like loved characters.
He was super good in that Death of the Humans book.
What do you think or hope that this Daniel Warren Johnson series revolves around? Like, what do you want to get out of it?
Daniel Warren Johnson, I really don't know what they're going to do with it, because like, does he have to stay within the bounds of Marvel's rules, or does he get to do what he did in
like
Wonder Woman?
Yeah,
because what he did in Wonder Woman was like his own graphic novel, and I think that's like plays to a lot of his strength, because he gets to like create whatever. But also at the same time, it's like, all right, well, don't show me what you can do. Like this is the rules. Now make something happen, because a lot of these dudes can.
If I had to guess, I think what we're gonna get is like kind of a space romp. You know, like where he's fighting a bunch of giant, like, you know, space aliens and other kind of galactic warriors. If I had to guess, because I feel like Daniel Warren Johnson
ball out brawl
definitely gets books that he can lean into his strength, which is normally like usually tales about like post-apocalyptic or heroes having to like find like their worth again or like be re-worthy.
Damn. Okay, so they have this. He's like, yo, the hammer. He's like, I'm not making
for
it
sure.
again. All right. Sure. I'll give you that much.
Yeah, and it comes out in March, so that's not like too long to wait at all.
So you think we're gonna get a costume redesign?
I don't really care for a costume redesign. I feel like Beta Ray Bill's costume it don't really need to change. Like, it's iconic enough. Like, I wouldn't mind it, but at the same time, I could care less.
That's about it. And then the only other thing that I want to champion is I finished Douglas Adams' The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I can recommend it to anybody that's just like, I just want a quick read. It's 216 pages. It's funny. And they made a movie into this, too. So this movie came out.
Mos Def was
lot of, Mos Def. Who
robot was Alan Rickman.
Yeah, so now here's the thing. I knew that going in reading this.
And you can only hear it in his voice.
Yo, perfect. It is so perfect. That is so good that I'm like, you got this robot who's just depressed, right? Then I started thinking, I wonder if like Futurama took this from and gave Bender like his drinking problem.
It made him an aggressive robot.
Yeah, aggressive robot.
Instead of a morose robot.
Yeah. And I'm just like, yo, there's like no way like the writers didn't watch this. And
they would have definitely read that book. That would have just been I would assume that would have been canon of like space books you need to read.
Yes, most definitely.
Like
so,
Arthur C. Clarke books and stuff like that.
Very true. And that's the realm that I'm kind of going to follow as well, too. Like, I want to hit up some Arthur C. Clarke. I just want to read some of these classics.
So check this out. My two champions that I'll mention. I didn't have a chance to champion Soul, the Pixar movie that came out.
Yes, because it's
Christmas
dope.
Day.
Bro, agreed.
I will co-champion that.
Yeah, I think we can all.
Yeah,
I don't think I've met anyone that hasn't liked it. And if you,
the internet, there's always.
Yeah, I did see that bullshit. But anyway,
we want,
exactly. That's just left for Twitter. But anyway, Soul is a fantastic movie. I definitely want to give that its proper credit and just due. And talk about a great time to release it too. It came out on what?
It came out Christmas morning.
Like fantastic watch. Like had me feeling like grateful. Yeah, I was like feeling happy and grateful.
We know you're sad.
So I thought the way they that was, I was like, man, this is a very complex, sometimes controversial, polarizing, and just kind of difficult topic to make into a child-friendly cartoon. But man, they nailed it and had so much for an adult viewer to enjoy. So I'll start off my year champion of Soul. I'll also champion the return of one of my favorite podcasts ever. The Juan Epstein podcast is back. It's rebranded as Juan Epstein is Dead. Juan Epstein is one of my favorite all-time podcasts. When did it first come out? Like early 2010s, I believe?
Something. That was like the first kind of like rap podcast.
I think it was the first kind of hip-hop based podcast. I think Combat Jack
before
followed
people
shortly.
even knew what a podcast was.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they have, I mean, if you could find that old show anywhere, I think they got rid of that feed a while ago, but it has some of the best interviews I've ever heard in regards to like
the Chris Rock interview on there was.
We were just talking about that.
It was so funny.
But they also like were able to interview Jay-Z and Kanye West and not asking them like your run of the mill press
they
questions.
Asked them nerdy rap.
They were asking them nerdy rap questions, and still to this day, like that is, man, I hold that. That's shown such high regard, and it sucked that they've been on hiatus for so many fucking years. But they're back, and they're bringing back the old format. So it's like just two hip-hop loving fucking friends who happen to work at Hot 97, Peter Rosenberg and Cypher Sounds, talking extra nerdy, and it's like the banter too. I love the banter because it reminds me. I know a lot of people like say like, man, I love this podcast. It reminds me of me hanging out with my friends. This literally reminds me of like kicking it with you all, or like trying to show Drew like some new random ass hip hop. Like I love it, man. And the fact they're back, I highly recommend it if you're looking for like a really good deep dive into like nerdy hip hop stuff like that. So those are my two champions. Next up, I'll share some comic book series coming out this year that I'm pretty kind of hyped for. Outside of the Beta Ray Bill one, and this is kind of a continuation of Walt's champion, but Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips are releasing a follow-up or another OGN, original graphic novel, in March. It's called Friend of the Devil, and it's supposed to be a continuation of Reckless, which came out in December from those two. I think like this Reckless universe starring Ethan Reckless, main character's name. Like you said, I think there's 2 more books planned this year, one of them being Friend of the Devil. This one's supposed to take place 1970s, and Ethan Reckless finds his way into like Hollywood's like occult underbelly. If you've read Fade Out, then you know Ed Brubaker. When it comes to Hollywood, like occult and just like conspiracy stuff in the 70s, he's got it. So I'm really looking forward to.
You look at some people for 3-pointers. You look for like Ed Brubaker for some good Hollywood fun.
No, you look at Ed Brubaker if you want crime noir, if you want like old 70s, 60s stuff. I mean, if you just want a good comics, period, you cannot go wrong with Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips.
That is just
the fact that we're getting
that's a brand.
Yeah, exactly.
I would like to see Ed Brubaker write a Roger Rabbit.
He'd probably make that shit dark and dope. So that follow-up is coming out in March, Friend of the Devil. Another series that I'm looking forward to is this one's coming out in April. And this is a creator-owned body of work by superstar team Jeff Johns and Gary Frank. Their most recent body of work was that Doomsday Clock series for DC. Well, they're coming out with their own creator-owned body of work. It's called Geiger. And it's supposed to be set in like a post-nuclear war out kind of fallout setting. There's like a dangerous man running around causing hella havoc. His name's Geiger, so that's the title name. But it's Jeff Johns and Gary Frank. And I don't know when the last time Jeff Johns has done a creator-owned body of work. I feel like it's been forever. Yeah. I feel like he's been a DC company man for a long time, and he's been loyal to them. So I'm excited to see what he does kind of unrestrained. I think this is coming out through Image. I think it was supposed to be coming out through like Kickstarter, and then Image picked it up or something like that. I remember something happened, or I might be confusing it. But anyways, Geiger's coming out in April. And the last thing I'll mention that I think I'm looking forward to is the series. Do you guys know who James Stokey is?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Drew's aware. Are you aware?
I'm not.
He does like all these crazy dope monster like.
Yeah, he's done a series called Alien Dead Orbit, and then he did this Godzilla run called Century War or Half Century War or something like that. Both of them are fan-fucking-tastic. He's kind of like Danny Warren Johnson, like a writer and artist.
Are you aware of Jeff Darrow's like work and like how he draws stuff?
I've seen his name.
James Stokey is I'd put him in the same camp as Jeff Darrow, as Daniel Warren Johnson, as what's the he's a current artist. His name Burnham. Last name Burnham.
Not Bo Burnham. Something Chris Burnham.
Yes, Chris Burnham.
Yeah.
Where it's
Luther
like
Strode?
Yeah, not
Luther Strode, but Tradmore. Yeah, sorry.
So like hyper detailed artist, like Brian Hitch too. I'd probably put him there too. Like hyper detailed, and they know how to draw like action and fight sequences. Like as far as like their fight choreography, it's amazing, and they're always really doing like big splash pages with super meticulous fucking detail. But anyways, James Stoke is coming out with a new series in March. It's called Orphan and the Five Beasts, and it's supposed to be his love letter to Shaw Brothers movies and like 1970s grindhouse movies. So yeah, I'm excited.
I will tell you the thing that I've hated, not really the thing I hate about streaming, is that I don't know who owns the rights to these Shaw Brothers Golden Harvest movies in America.
I have been waiting for some sort of kung fu streaming service.
Just because
that'd be a dope.
Between that and the Hammer films. Okay. Remember in Grindhouse, the movie Grindhouse, it was like don't. They had that trailer, don't. Yeah. Those are a riff of like Hammer films. So that was like the main
Christopher Lee.
Christopher Lee used to do a lot of Hammer movies. And I've always wondered why they haven't just found like why someone just didn't get stream all the Hammer
get the
movies.
license.
Yeah, and the same thing with those Golden Hearts. As soon as you said that,
I keep asking because like a lot of people I know they just buy the movies. Like that's that they just own the movies and pop them in. But I'm like, I want to watch them and I can't rent them anywhere.
Yeah. Honestly, I've been getting all my Shaw Brothers stuff from my dad. Like,
'Cause
luckily
he
he's
would
got them
have
all
them
on
all, yeah.
VHS. But
what you got a VCR that works?
no, that's the only problem. But he's got a few of them on DVD. He's got like all the old classics on VHS.
He got like the 5 Deadly Venoms and all
then
that
I think
kind of
he's
stuff
been
on.
slowly rebuying a lot of them in DVD.
If you can catch
but
it,
very
yeah.
standard DVD. So like, you know, like it ain't the best quality. But anyways, but yeah, between Orphan and the Five Beasts by James Stoke in March, Friend of the Devil by Ed Brubaker, Sean Phillips also in March, and then Geiger by Jeff Johns and Gary Frank in April. It's looking like this first quarter, like there's going to be a lot of, and I've got like 3 other ones I could list, but
I'm fine
it's
with
going to
it.
be a strong 2021 for comics. So
I'm
that's
fine with it. We at the house anyway, so yeah, you got time to read.
yeah. Yo, all right. So let me ask you guys one other thing before we wrap up, and because I feel like every time we link up, one of the things that we end up discussing is how much, I think we've coined the phrase like content overload. Like there's always so much to either read. With us being like big music heads, we've always got a back catalog of albums and songs to play through. You guys are actual book readers, so you guys always have a new book. How are you guys going into this year, like prioritizing like the content you consume? Like, do you guys have an idea of like what you're going to prioritize? Ooh,
I do actually. This is what I'm gonna try to do. Now, have I been able to do it so far? Hit or miss. But what I've been trying to do is watch a film a day on a different streaming service. So whichever streaming service, let's say you only have 3, we'll just watch one of the movies on that service. So I'll watch one of those movies. Then I'll try to read about 30 to 40 pages in a book at least.
A day?
Yeah, if I can get down to it. I try to do that. My comic books, I get them on, let's just say I get them on Wednesday. So I go through all those quick. My music is always going to be Friday after I get off work. So from Friday at about, let's say about 1 o'clock, pour up my first drink, sit outside, and just start going through albums. Like anything that came out that I would be remotely interested in listening to, I do that. And Saturday, I'll try to squeeze in a movie, watch a little bit of sports. It kind of depends on that type of thing. But the main thing I would recommend is that you, if you have all these services, use them. So, and then explore stuff. I would say make a list of stuff that you've been wanting to watch. So if you got like there's always going to be classic films or whatever that you haven't caught up with. So try to knock all that stuff out. And the other thing I do too is I always look at going away soon lists. If you go on most of them sites, they say this is leaving soon. And when I see that, I go down that list and I make sure there's nothing in that list that I want to watch because those will take priority.
That is a
very responsible.
Fantastic plan.
Very
Yeah,
good.
that was
Like,
the
you
most
heard it
dope.
here first, folks.
All right,
Check them lists.
Drew, what about you? How are you prioritizing what you're consuming this year, content-wise?
I got like a new work schedule, so I'm trying to figure that out for a little bit. But on my days off, what I usually do is when I wake up, I just I'm gonna read my book. So I'm gonna get my coffee. I'm gonna read my book, read a couple chapters, go through that a little bit. I try to do like a book a week. For comic books, yeah, it's like I've run through comic books like a pile, like Thursday evening from like 7 to 8:30 or whatever, and it's just like a nice feeling. Like to me, that's like what I sit with. I'm like, all right. But as far as like the movie idea, like there was a good point where every time I would come off of work, because I work at a bar now, so I get off at like 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yep.
And I'm still up. Like
You're trying to wind down.
Yeah. So then when I sit down, I'm like, all right, let me just relax and kind of go through it. And I can always have like an hour and a half before that. So like I'll start a movie. And I've now reached to an age where I can pause the movie and come back and finish it.
See, I can't.
I've been on that.
Look, that is no problem.
I know. Like, I will run through a movie, no problem. Like, I'll do it. Like, listen, I can watch a movie, no problem. I don't have to pause. Like, I don't know. Let's just take.
Yeah, we ain't saying that.
No, I'm saying if I get too tired, this is why I don't like watch movies when I be drunk, man. Like, if I'm too lit to try to watch a movie, bro, it's a wrap. So I'll get like 5 minutes into a movie, like, you know what? I am too lit to be paying attention to this.
Yeah, for sure.
And pause the movie.
Yeah.
And then I'll come back, and half of the time it's going to happen like in the first 15 to 20 minutes.
And
so
I'll do that too.
Anything.
And I've done that plenty of times, and I'll do that. But as far as it goes, like when I get off of work, I'll have a movie in mind. Like The Big Lebowski, never saw it. I got off of work, I watched that. That movie is golden.
And see, that's why I say there's so much movies that it's so much of everything. You just have to figure out whatever's the best thing for you.
Yeah.
I think I'm probably take your advice, Walt, and I just need to start writing down the movies that I get recommended or I hear about. Because what ends up happening is when I have free time to like 2 hours to want to watch a movie, I just don't know where to go. So I think if I had a list, that would be a lot better. That would actually give me some like guidance. I think in regards to comics, what I'm going to start practicing is reading new comics that I pick up within like 24, 48 hours. Because what ends up happening for me is I buy, my comics on Thursdays, and then I'll just put them on the stack, and then before I know it, I'm just adding to that stack, and I'm not, reading nearly as much.
My shop, I'm one of them lucky ones, and I think a lot of shops are already doing this stuff because of the pandemic. When them new books is in, they selling them books. They not sitting there waiting on them. So I get my books Tuesday at 2.
Dude, that's awesome.
Tuesday at 2 o'clock, my pool is up and ready. I go in there and grab my stuff and shake.
Yeah. Your pool will see you now. Thank you. What's up, man?
Gents, I think we are at a good stopping point for this week's show. I appreciate you guys.
Not for us. We can talk comics all day. We're just giving y'all a break. I'm really sorry that you had to hit up, just rumble on. But
well, it is always a pleasure. I was like I was saying, man, it feels good to like come down, visit, have like 2 days worth of just nerdy, in-depth comic book and other like pop culture discussions, man. Before I let this pre-recorded outro fade in and take us away, do y'all have any words or closing remarks that you want to close out the show or share with our listeners?
Man, wear a damn mask. That's it. Just wear a mask, bro.
I sneeze.
Life
you say
advice.
Bless you. You see a person struggling with a door, you open door. No, honestly, read your books. Like, get excited. Hit us up. If there's something that you're really feeling, let us know what you're feeling, because I'll take recommendations all day. If you're reading something you're feeling, let me know, because like I only know what I know, and when I'll read whatever Walt's reading, and I'll read whatever Badr's reading. And sometimes Badr don't pick good stuff.
Well, that's because Badr's way more adventurous than I am with my comic books.
I try. All right, folks. This is the end of our show. Pre-recorded outro. Fading in. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll catch you next week, all right?
Peace.
Yo. This is the end of the show, listeners. Thanks again for tuning in this week. It was a nice break from the usual, if I do say so myself, to be able to kick off the Short Box New Year. Walt and Drew will be back to our regular schedule going forward. And of course, the crew you all know and love, Ashley, Ed, and Cesar, will return next week as well. As always, we appreciate you for hanging out and sharing your time with us. What did you think about WandaVision? What comics are you looking forward to this year? Feel free to join the conversation and let us know what you think. Send us a message to our inbox at theshortboxjacks@gmail.com, and we'll read it on a future episode. I personally want to acknowledge and thank the people who make this show possible week in and week out. Our sponsor, Gotham City Limit. Of course, my panel today, Andrew and Walt, for a fun conversation. And of course, I have to thank our Patreon subscribers who help us keep the lights on here at the Shortbox Studio. If you enjoy the podcast and you're in a position to help us maintain and grow the show, consider becoming a Patreon subscriber. In exchange for your contributions, we'll reward you with bonus episodes and a lot of other cool perks. Visit patreon.com/theshortbox for more information. Speaking of patrons, next week we'll be recording a comic spotlight on a title that was suggested to us by one of our Patreon subscribers. It's an action-packed, critically acclaimed superhero comic from Image called The Strange Adventures of Luther Strode. So make sure you're subscribed to the podcast and stay tuned to the feed when that drops next week. In the meantime, have a great week, be well, and please continue to make mine and yours Shortbox, and keep it geeky.